and welcome to the Habits and Home Show. I'm your host, Lisa Lazat, and I help busy moms bring order to their homes by downsizing and decluttering and ditching old habits in exchange for systems that bring peace and more enjoyment to their lives. If you're a mom trying to show the love of Jesus to your family, but the clutter in your home keeps you overwhelmed and frustrated, you have come to the right place. On this podcast, you will hear easy, step-by-step tips to declutter and create systems so you can keep your home organized and finally walk in the peace God has promised you. Need some accountability? I've got you covered there too. Join the Accountability Club, a community of like-minded mamas decluttering and systemizing our homes together. Are you ready, friend? Let's get started. Hey friends, and welcome to the show. During this summer series, I have been sharing with you success stories from my one-to-one coaching clients as well as students inside the Accountability Club. A lot of these women come to me eager and willing to make change in their home. Typically, this is through the means of decluttering, downsizing, creating systems in their home. There are a lot of hurdles that we have to overcome, though. A lot of mental barriers and blocks and things that we bring from childhood that may prevent us from being able to easily let go of things. And my client Kaylin, who is on the show today, is no exception. She came with her own resistance and reserves when it came to change, when it came to decluttering, downsizing, and letting go of things. And there was a lot of things that we had to work through. But once I gained her trust and she knew that I had her best interests in mind, she trusted me, she leaned into the process, and she is reaping the rewards of all her hard work. So I can't wait for you to get to know Kaylin and hear how this process has transformed her life and her home. Hey, Kaylin, and welcome to the podcast. I'm so excited to have you on to share your experience decluttering and getting your home organized and putting some systems in place. So a couple of months ago, it's actually been probably a year ago that you reached out to me to help you do some decluttering and organizing in your house. So what was, when you first reached out, what were the feelings and the thoughts, and where were you at in your season of life? And what were you needing help with that you reached out to me to help you with?
Yeah, I was a mom of two littles, still am, because 1 year only makes so much difference in that. But I had, pretty much a newborn at that time and a 3-year-old, and was just feeling like I was drowning without systems in my house. Everywhere I looked was clutter all the time, and it was mentally stressful. And even just the easy chores and tasks of life were feeling like a treadmill. There wasn't a lot of joy in doing that. I was a stay-at-home mom, so I felt like, I should have time. This is my full-time job. I should be doing better at this. And I just thought, I don't know, somewhere along the way, I missed being equipped for this. I had kind of a humiliating experience with some family members coming in and trying to help right after my second son was born. And I just felt like I never wanted to be in a place where people would come into my home and think like, whoa, this woman needs help. And it was true that I did, not in an intervention kind of a way, but just in she's kind of buried right now sort of way. So that's where we started.
Yeah, and you're not alone in that. There are so many people. I mean, I remember when my kids were little and I had little ones, and not only are you like jumping into marriage and you're now taking the role that your mom once played of being the wife, but then you throw in the kids and you're like, okay, I got to learn this homemaking, job and the cooking for everyone, 3 meals a day, plus snacks, plus changing diapers. I mean, it's a lot. And if we didn't have those examples growing up, or our mom, felt like she could come in and say, okay, darling, this is how you get, giving us a good foundation. I remember you saying that, your mom also struggled with, I don't really like to use the word hoarding, but collecting
Mhm.
things, not letting
Yeah.
things go. And you didn't want to continue that pattern. And so, and like you mentioned, and I'm glad you already mentioned it, is something that I had remembered. You did have an experience where people thought they were being helpful by recognizing your situation and they
Mhm.
thought, okay, we can just fix this for her because she's
Mhm.
struggling. But how did that feel having your family members kind of like come in and do that and kind of like take over? You said it was humiliating. What were the feelings and the thoughts behind that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tender time postpartum, right? So
Yeah.
I wonder how much of the memory of it is blown out of proportion a bit. But at the time, it created a lot of anger and humiliation. I was just mortified that, first of all, they saw the condition that things were in, and then B, that they would, feel like so much of this needs our help, needs to be fixed. Um, and then the way that they went about helping clean some of these things up was in very different ways than I would have done it. So then I felt sort of circumvented. I felt like my systems maybe were judged. Um, it was very stressful. The outcome of it was, I couldn't find things. And so I really had to step back and say, like, okay, I can take the blessing of these people spending their time on me and my situation. But yeah, ultimately, it was not a positive thing
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah.
And I should
And
say they had my permission to come in and do certain things. So it was not on them that they like
yeah,
broke into my home or
right.
anything. Um,
Right.
but but the reality of it was there was a lot more of a need than I was even willing to like express to them. And then I remember saying like, why, if somebody else can just come in and do it whatever way they want, why does it even matter that I care about how it's done in the first place? And
Right.
so I had, my ways of doing things, even if they weren't good systems or processes. So judged
Yeah.
was one of the was one of the
Yeah.
words, even though
Yeah.
they didn't mean that at all.
Yes. And a lot of people, let me just tell you, the people that you're talking to, they're in your situation. They're typing into their podcast app. They're looking for help with their clutter, with their lack of systems, with their disorganization. So please don't think that anybody who's listening is not relating to you because you are
Hmm.
speaking to the very people who need to hear your story. A lot
Yeah.
of they might have friends that visit their home and they think that, just let me get in here and I'll fix it, but it's not that simple. It's not that simple. We feel ownership of our own stuff. This is our territory. This is our realm. And to have it feels very intrusive sometimes, even if the person is welcomed in. Sometimes when I'm hired as an organizer to go in, a person feels somewhat territorial over their stuff and they want to make decisions on each and every item. And
Yeah.
so you feel like you've lost some sort of control in your own home when that happens. Even like you said, you gave permission. It just feels, there's a lot of uncertainty and a lot of lack of security,
Yeah.
in that point. Okay, so you reached out to me and you had that experience, but at the same time, you desired to maintain or to, get your home in order with just a
Hmm.
little bit of assistance and a little bit of guidance.
Yeah.
So while we were working together, we went room by room, creating a plan. And that's something that I help people do is basically project manage you through your house so that we make sure we get to every room in your house.
Hmm.
There's a lot of hand holding there, a lot of guidance. So for you, what did you find to be the most helpful? The strategies I was teaching you, and maybe the tactics that we use to approach each room. What did you personally find to be most helpful while we were decluttering together?
Sure. Yeah, the accountability of just having you there at the time and then to check in with in between and stuff was probably number one for me. But I also really appreciated and was helped by your system and approach in, starting at one side of the room and working your way around and ending at the closet or top to bottom if it was that kind of a space. And even though some of those things just seemed logical and like, oh, I should have been able to walk in a room and think that, that's where I was at, was I really just needed somebody to do some of that thinking for me, to take the overwhelm out of it and
Yeah.
just get me started and start building momentum. So momentum is another thing that you definitely helped me gain. It wasn't like, okay, we're gonna tackle the hardest thing first. It was just, one step at a time, bite-sized things to get through this. And you are very calm, and you never looked at a space and went, oh, let's set aside 3 months. You never were daunted by anything. And that
No.
helped me to think, okay, this is a project that is totally doable.
Yeah.
And we're just, like I said, going to take it one step at a time. I think those were the biggest pieces
Yeah.
here for me.
Yeah. So breaking it down, get some clarity. When we're in the midst of chaos and from the outside perspective, sometimes people look at our home and they think, oh, this is not chaotic, but we're living in the situation and our chaos is personal to us.
Mhm.
And so when we're in the midst of chaos, sometimes it hinders our ability to think clearly and to have clarity, especially with the task initiation. And so yeah, we started with the easiest place. And I typically, when I do a home tour with somebody in their first session, we typically start at the door where they frequently come in. And we get that set up first and we create some systems there because that really sets the tone for when you come in the house, how your house greets you. And a lot of people, when they're in the midst of chaos, they think, okay, go to the most stressful place first and deal with
Mhm.
that first because it's causing me the most stress. But I say back up just a little bit and support yourself as you are tackling this huge, insurmountable project of your entire house. Do
Yeah.
something that's easy. And the best place to start is where you enter the house because it gives you a sense of control. Like I am, I'm equipped. I know exactly where I put my stuff when I walk in. And so that's where we started first. So yeah, I think, and then as you said, it built momentum. It gave us
Yeah.
that easy win. It built momentum. So I do recall in the beginning that there was some resistance there. And, of course, you were still on the backside of postpartum and you had already had that experience with your family. So when you came up to that, like those feelings of resistance, where do you feel like they came from? Because you were really hesitant about trusting the process or trusting my guidance and where we should go, what room we should do, how much to let go of. Where do you feel like that resistance came from?
I think it was a feeling of, this is my house. I should be the expert here. Like, who better to know this space than me? It's mine. I made it this way. But that was kind of exactly the problem. Instead of that being, yeah, I should be the expert and be handling this well, I was missing pieces. I wasn't equipped for it. And it's hard to let somebody else come in as an expert and kind of take that role and guide me into being able
Yeah.
to be the expert. And I'm not the expert yet,
Yeah.
but I think that someday that's possible.
So do you feel like it was like self-inflicted pressure and this standard you had set for yourself that you had y- why can't you be this person? Why can't you get your act together? You should be able to figure this out. Do you feel like that was all the self-talk you that was going on in your head?
Absolutely. Yeah, exactly what you said. And I always felt like, and I had these like corporate jobs in the past where I was a very effective person and I was very organized in those ways. And so when it wasn't playing out in my home, it was just very mind-boggling to me. I was like, I feel like I totally should be capable of this, and it feels like it's not working. And yeah, so yes, the like self-judgment. And I always had a million excuses because I'm like, okay, if I'm that person who's capable of that, there must be all these things in the way. So I could always tell you, 12 reasons why, oh, right now it looks like this, when it was not, it was always. Maybe there were excuses, but it was always like that. Like, so that's really the place I had to come to, was like, look myself in the mirror and be like, it's never good. You don't have like
Yeah.
moments in time where you get overwhelmed and things get out of control. You live in an out of control environment. So, and then you really helped me to see, and I don't want to jump ahead, but you really helped me to see how much of that boils down to the volume of things.
Yeah. Well, go right into that. Go right into, the volume of things and how, not having that clarity of just, how to manage it, how that volume grew out of this sense of not knowing what you need, not knowing how to, function. Just, if you're ready to share about that, go right ahead.
Sure. Yeah, I had not thought of my things in that way before, and I didn't think that when we started this process together that that was going to be the complete foundation, was decluttering, downsizing, looking at what you have and what your needs are and aligning those things like you just said. And if I can use kind of that same comparison that I just did to working outside the home previously, I had worked in a role where I got promoted a few times, but it felt like I was still asked to do the previous job and then add on and add on and add on as I gained these new titles. And I was like, whoa, 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 I can't manage the task of four different roles. And when I equated that to my things, my belongings, I was like, it's the same thing. These are all things that need my attention to clean them, care for them, put them away, utilize them in whatever manner they're meant to be used or cared for. When I thought of it like that, I was like, oh, nobody can do this. Nobody can just manage infinite items.
Yeah.
Um, and then just as we worked through and as we decluttered, and your process of helping me at times in different spaces went differently, but where we would just like, put everything up on top of the bed and I could see it as this big pile of garbage. It wasn't garbage. It was, things and loved things that I had accumulated. But when I looked at it like that, I was like, I can't ever hope to use all of this in this lifetime. What do I really want? What is bringing me joy? What is helping my family to enjoy each other and our time in this space? So, yeah, when that became the lens to look at everything through, it was a pretty big aha moment.
Yeah, I love the example that you gave when you're in a corporate situation or in a job and you get a new role and they tack on more jobs, more responsibilities, and you don't necessarily let go of the other responsibilities, they just
Hmm.
give you more. I love that you gave that like it's, example of just applying that to your home because we do that as moms and we do that as women especially. We just instead of letting one thing go when we take on something new, we just accumulate not just the stuff, but also the jobs that we, can take on. And we don't have those boundaries to say, okay, I'm at max capacity. I cannot
Right,
handle anymore.
right.
And so I love what you said. And a lot of when we were working together was me gently guiding you to learn your capacity and just accept it
Yeah.
during the season of our life. We especially when we transitioned from when we're in our early 20s and we just get out of college and we have our own job and maybe we're married, but it's before we have kids. We Most of us have a job, and then if we decide to stay home, we stay home, or if we're working and being a mom at side by side, we it's hard for us to shift the season in our life and to match our the stuff that we have in our home to our new capacity, our personal capacity in that new season. And we, like I said, just like in the corporate job, we're not letting those things go or getting them out of or like weeding out when we take on these, new responsibilities of being a mom. We just keep them and they're hanging out. But like you said, I have to clean it, I have to manage it, I have to touch it, I have to move it around. But I like what you said when you mentioned how I had you bring everything to one spot because in America, especially, and probably in other countries as well, we have these big houses. And it's really easy to hide things or just to store things everywhere. But when we bring
Mhm.
it all into one spot, we see the volume of the stuff that we are responsible for managing. And it gives us a very clear, like it's very eye-opening. And
Yeah.
so, when we see it all in that capacity, it does. It looks like junk at that point because
Mhm.
it doesn't feel like it's useful or purposeful to our life. It feels like just plain old overwhelming.
Yeah.
And so, so speaking of that, when we brought everything, because I like to follow a system. I like to, like, when we do declutter, follow a step-by-step system and basically, get everything up off the floor, bring it to the bed, and then work in a circular fashion around the room. So, did you find that method and that system of like approaching our decluttering much easier to do?
Yes and no. Yes, in the like this is my dedicated time. I'm working on this as a project. Yes, I thought that was very effective. As I've put it into practice or put decluttering as a whole into practice, I do find that I will create those piles and then not get back to them. So it's dangerous for me to always do it like that. But when it's dedicated time, I have a babysitter or whatever it is, and this is the time that I'm tackling this space, that's a really effective way to get through it for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And that's why I feel like I like to work with people personally, one-on-one, because decluttering or your approach to decluttering is not like a one size fits all. It really depends on, first of all, how much time you can commit to that project, your ability to focus on that project at a time. So when you have that accountability and that guidance plus the time set aside to do that, yes, tackling a full space or a whole space all in one, day or one, a couple of hours. But if you are decluttering little by little, I would say break it down into one section of your room at a time, like
Mhm.
one shelf or one set of shelves at a time, one piece of furniture at a time, to where there is a clear ending and you can get done in an hour and then you're like done. And then,
Mhm.
when you come back to decluttering that you've already finished that piece of furniture, you can now move on to the next piece of
Yeah.
furniture. Awesome. Awesome. So, as far as while we were doing this, I not only help people and helped you with decluttering your home, there's a lot of coaching and, life happening together. And
Mhm.
we talked about systems. I always want people to not only get their home set up and optimize for their natural lifestyle. I also want you to have systems in how you approach your daily rhythms and your daily routines. So, do you remember some systems that we had created for your home that we worked on while we were working together?
Yeah. Would meal planning fall under this?
Yes, yes.
That's the biggest one for me.
Yeah. So that
And
would you say that is your most successful one?
I would say that, yes. I am the type when I get overwhelmed, I will just spin in circles. And I totally understand that, okay, dinner time is coming up, but I can wait up until, the very last minute. And then I end up serving something that's not very healthy or, whatever the situation is, and just stressing about the week ahead. But we put it on the calendar, and it still is something that's actually physically on my calendar to do meal planning. And we tried more than one time, Friday night at one point. At this point, it's Sunday evenings, and that works really well. And I sit down and I do um, my meal plan for the
Yeah.
whole week. And I still just do dinners. And that works for me. I don't really need to do breakfast and lunches. I can handle those a lot better. And get that done and make my grocery shopping list at that time. And then Monday morning is usually grocery shopping and shopping your pantry and kind of the pieces that go along with before you do or as you're doing your meal plan. Um, but all of that has really helped me to feel prepared to know when I wake up in the morning what time I need to start doing what piece to get dinner on the table.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
just makes
Just
the day and the week flow a lot better to have that already thought through.
yeah, and some people just they hear the word meal planning and it sounds like a foreign concept to them because maybe their mom never did it or it sounds like a big like scientific task that they have to do with many
Mhm.
steps. But y'all, it's simple. It can be as simple as you make it. It can be as simple as you have a go-to 7 a list of 7 meals that you make and your family will actually eat them. And you simply write them on a piece of paper and you check them off as you serve them. And then you buy the same ingredients the very next week and you
Yeah.
serve the same meals. I mean, it's simply having an idea of what you have on hand, what you need to shop for, and someone to tell you, hey, this is what you're having for dinner tonight, instead of looking at each other and say, what do you want to eat for dinner? I don't know. What do you want to eat for dinner? And
Yeah.
or instead of like falling back on a bowl of cereal. Now, a bowl of cereal is great on those days
Yeah.
where we're coming in at 8:30 at night from a baseball game. That is completely fine.
Yeah.
But just making a list it can be so helpful. So
Yeah.
any other systems that you remember that we worked on?
Zone cleaning is another one that I think someone else had given me the idea, but I hadn't tried it yet. I hadn't thought it through far enough to say, will this work for me? So you helped me to understand what it was and how it would work and give me an idea of what zones in my house could work. And we ended up just basically splitting it up by the levels of my home, which
Yeah.
there are three. And then we usually do, the 4 weeks of the month. So then it's the transition spaces and my car, I even included in that. And we picked a day, and that's zone cleaning day. And that doesn't mean that's the only day of the week that I do that kind of cleaning, but that's the day of the week that I know, like, I shouldn't schedule certain other things outside of the home because that's when I plan on being around to do that type of cleaning and get the bulk of it done. And then you went so far as to teach me how, like, really, you guys, I needed this kind of help. Like, start at the top, dust things first, make the dust fall down, and then you're
Yeah.
wiping your surfaces, you're tidying things as you go, and vacuuming last, kind of a thing.
Yeah,
That's
girlfriend, I had to learn these things myself. So, you know, I, if I could share anything that was like an aha moment for me with you and it be impactful, then I am grateful for that because any systems that I share are from experience. I there's no degree to go to school to be some kind of systems guru. I mean, maybe there is, especially in homemaking. I don't know,
Yeah.
but it's literally like been aha moments to me that I put into practice, and I'm like, hey, this works great for me. I'm sure it could work great for other people as well. So basically, what Kaylin is saying is a top to bottom cleaning approach to cleaning. Basically, get your broom, sweep the spider webs, all the dust that's falling down, let it fall down, just work your way down, however deep clean you want to go, and basically vacuum last. So I love that your zone cleaning is in place and that you're practicing it. And by no means do I expect perfection, because perfection is not happening over here in the Lazat household either. But it's that clarity of mind that you have and being able to fall back on this system when need be. Like, yeah, if we get off, if we derail, I always know, oh yeah, I have a zone cleaning system. Duh, let's get back to that,
Hmm.
when
Hmm.
life is chaotic again. Okay. Any other systems you want to mention?
Those are the two that have been really big for me.
Yeah, yeah. And something that we practiced while we were coaching together is a resetting system.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And, would you like to update on that or to speak on
Sure.
how that was going?
Yeah. Um, so we do nightly toy reset as a family before bedtime, and then I do a nightly kitchen reset or main level reset primarily. And even in seasons where that's not ending up looking pristine at the end of the night, it's still very much a discipline. And that has just been really helpful to start out the next day on such a fresh note. And I really liked when you told me, like, because for a while I was sending you a picture of that every night of the kitchen or of the whole main level. And you were like, don't apologize to me if it's a night you can't do it or whatever. You're apologizing to, like, your next day self. You're doing this for yourself and your family. So you can choose to not do it if your next, like, your tomorrow self is okay with that. And so I, like, thinking about my tomorrow self and how I was going to feel was really helpful to me too. And also took away any judgment of being like, I don't want to, like, I need to make this excuse to Lisa why it didn't happen. Like, it took that out of it. It was just like,
Yeah.
I decided that my tomorrow self's okay with this tonight and I want to have movie night or whatever it is. So that was
Yeah.
good.
Yes, yes. There's no judgment there. I remember when I first started resetting my kitchen. And yes, like you said, it is a discipline. It is literally a discipline, especially if it's not a habit or you didn't grow up, doing that type of routine or your parents making you reset the kitchen or, you didn't have your mom setting that example. It is a discipline to clean up at the end of the night, putting dishes away, whether you're putting them in the dishwasher or simply wash, dry, and putting them away completely. But whatever choice that you make today is going to affect your tomorrow self. The same with if you choose ice cream, and your tomorrow self, or if you choose ice cream every day, your tomorrow self is going to catch up to you and it's going to be affected. So if we can slow down and and approach things not strict and not without grace, but if we can think, how is my tomorrow self going to feel if I make this choice today?
Mhm.
Because nobody's going to take care of you better than you. And if you neglect yourself today, then your tomorrow self is going to feel depleted. If you don't get enough sleep tonight, your tomorrow self is going to feel, lethargic and whiny and irritable. Okay. So it all goes back to parenting ourselves. And so a lot of this, when we're decluttering our house and when we're putting systems in place, is a lot of self discovery
Mhm.
and a lot of vulnerability and like you said, looking in a mirror, looking face to face and getting real with who you are and accepting it, but then also making the choice to making better choices for yourself. So, what has been your favorite room that we decluttered, we set up, we, got some systems in place? What has been your most enjoyable room since?
Definitely the kitchen. I am somebody who does a lot of baking and out of necessity does a lot of cooking. Even though with the loaves baking is less than I would like it to be, it was impossible before. And so I even remember texting you one day after we had worked a lot on it and been like, oh my gosh, my little son and I were able to make muffins and we didn't have to clean the kitchen first. We just got everything out and made the muffins. So it really has made a huge difference to have that space be functional. It wasn't where things were like flying out of the cupboards and like knocking me on the head before, but it was a lot of shuffling things around, where am I even storing this? Finding that there was old food, that kind of thing. So everything is, and it like out of anything we've worked on, that space is much the same as, right when we first worked on it and set it up because it works. So that has been a joy to be in the
Yeah.
kitchen now.
Now, what about your something that you enjoyed doing before we started working together was scrapbooking. And
Mhm.
you said that you used to scrapbook and you didn't really have a place anymore because the downstairs, the third level downstairs, it had become just a catch-all room. And
Yep.
we worked through it. We set up kind of like an office area that kind of
Mhm.
doubles as an open floor space for your kids to be able to play while
Yeah.
you're kind of in your office. And so something we also worked on like time blocking and time management and like scheduling things for our personal fundamental needs. And one of your fundamental needs was you wanted to make time for scrapbooking and being creative because that's who you are. You're a creative person.
Mhm.
And I think it's Tuesday night. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And you said Tuesday night. I don't remember if it's once a month or if it's every Tuesday night, you were going to have that time with yourself. So, have you been able to enjoy that space and have you been more like motivated to be able to be creative again?
Yeah, yes. The goal was a weekly. I cannot say that it's weekly at this point, but probably closer to every 4 or 6 weeks. But yes, but when I'm like, yeah, that's what I want to go down and do, it's ready for me. And it's so nice that it is. Things are organized. There's a cleared off space. It doesn't feel like I'm wading through a bunch of other garbage to like get over to my one little nook that I've carved out. It's a great room that serves its purpose now. I can see what I have, and it's really, really nice.
Good, good. Well, I have enjoyed getting to catch up with you again, and we are actually going to hop off in just a minute and do a little quick catch up call, little coaching call to kind of like refresh and as a thank you. So I just want to say thank you so much, Kaylin, for first of all trusting me to be there beside you, to do life with you. You accepted my, coaching with willingness, with acceptance and enthusiasm. And it was really nice getting to know you and becoming friends with you. And I've loved seeing your journey. I am so, so proud of all of the progress that you made. I know you're going to continue to make even more progress as you do another layer, as you circle back around to these spaces and look at them with fresh eyes on a yearly basis. So thank you so much for sharing your story with us.
Thank you.
Hey friend, before you go, I wanted to tell you more about the Accountability Club. Each month, we'll tackle a new space in our homes and work together to declutter and set up systems so we can easily maintain order without getting overwhelmed. You'll get a new decluttering tutorial each month, the coaching and accountability you need to actually follow through, and encouragement without judgment from other Christian moms in a safe environment. And guess what? The entire club is off of social media, so you don't have to worry about distractions the world may throw at you. Sweet friend, if you're feeling stuck in your decluttering journey, this is the place for you. Click the link below to try out the Accountability Club and start decluttering today.